Across every continent on Earth, wildlife moves according to the rhythm of vast migrations and silent struggles that determine which creatures will endure. These are not gentle journeys or predictable routes. They are demanding passages shaped by hunger, thirst, fatigue, and the ever-present shadow of danger. Entire herds travel for weeks, sometimes for months, guided by an ancient instinct carried through generations. They follow distant storms, fresh grasslands, and fragile water sources that can disappear without warning. Yet this story is not only about those who travel. The perspective shifts. The world is seen through the eyes of the predators, the silent watchers hidden in shadow. The hunters that judge distance with precision, read the wind with patience, and wait for the exact moment when weakness appears. For them, the movement of migration is not simply a spectacle of nature. It is a crucial chance to survive. Every river crossing can become a deadly challenge. Every open plain may transform into a hunting ground. While some animals move forward driven by the hope of survival, others depend on that same movement to avoid starvation. Their destinies become tightly connected in a balance as ancient as the wilderness itself. In the wild, migration is a constant struggle. And when these great journeys are viewed through the perspective of the hunter, a deeper truth of the natural world is revealed. In nature, one life often continues only because another has come to an end. At the edge of East Africa, where the savanna stretches almost endlessly toward the horizon, the land itself seems to move. The motion is anything but quiet. A constant thunder of hooves, drifting dust, and vast herds rolling forward fills the landscape. Here, migration does not follow narrow paths. It unfolds like a living tide sweeping across the plains. This is the largest land migration of mammals on Earth. Each year, more than 1 million wildebeest travel alongside hundreds of thousands of zebras and gazelles, covering roughly 800 to 1,000 kilometers in a nearly predictable cycle between the Serengeti Plains and the grasslands of the Masai Mara. The purpose is simple and unavoidable: fresh water and new grass. Yet the simplicity of the goal contrasts sharply with the harshness of the journey. Wildebeest do not follow a fixed road. Their route shifts with rainfall, wind patterns, and the changing condition of the land. The enormous herd behaves almost like a single living organism capable of reshaping the environment as it passes. Grasslands are grazed down. The soil becomes enriched with nutrients, and weeks later, the savanna grows back with renewed strength. The scale of the movement is so vast that it can even be seen from space. For months, the plains resemble a dark, pulsing carpet that never seems to rest. The ground trembles, the air thickens with dust, and every stride carries risk. Because this migration is not simply a march toward abundance, it is a chain of dangerous moments. Among all the challenges along the route, none is more decisive than the rivers. When the herd encounters a barrier of water, the forward surge slows and compresses. Thousands gather along the banks, pushing, hesitating, retreating, and advancing again. Fear spreads through the crowd like a wave, yet the pressure of animals behind allows no pause. Eventually, one leaps into the river, and within seconds, the rest follow. What was once a calm channel becomes a chaotic surge. Bodies collide, the current sweeps away the weaker animals, and many lose their footing within the first few meters. The crossing has no clear order. It becomes a powerful overflow of motion and confusion, and within that disorder, another ancient presence reveals itself. Beneath the dark surface of these African rivers live predators that do not need to chase the herds across the plains. They simply wait. Nile crocodiles are among the oldest hunters still ruling the planet. With slow metabolisms, remarkable patience, and a keen ability to read their surroundings, they have long learned that the wildebeest migration is a recurring event, predictable, concentrated, and unavoidable. For much of the year, the river offers few opportunities, but when the crossing season begins, the balance shifts dramatically. Within days, scarcity turns into sudden abundance. A crocodile does not pursue the fastest animal or challenge the strongest. Instead, it takes advantage of confusion, crowded water, and a single moment of miscalculation. The murky river limits vision, the force of the herd disrupts balance, and one slip can determine the fate of an animal weighing more than 200 kilograms. Yet the migration never stops. For every individual that falls, many others reach the opposite bank. The strategy is not to remove danger, but to spread the risk. The power of the migration lies in its sheer numbers, its persistence, and its unbroken momentum. Those that fail to cross do not disappear without purpose. Their bodies become food for crocodiles, fish, and birds, and they also nourish the river itself. Minerals and organic matter drift downstream for many kilometers, feeding life far beyond the original herd. As long as rains continue to renew the grass and rivers continue to interrupt the path, this cycle will repeat year after year, transforming movement into survival, and every crossing into an opportunity for those who know how to wait. When the great river crossings of the wildebeest finally subside, the landscape does not fall silent at once. The rivers gradually return to their calm flow. The dust settles over the plains, and the herd continues its long journey. Yet Yet the passage leaves behind a scattered trace across the savanna, still bodies of animals that failed to overcome the current, collapsed from exhaustion, or simply lacked the strength to keep moving. At that moment, another kind of movement begins. Long before any scent can be detected from the ground, small dark shapes appear high in the sky. At first they seem insignificant, barely visible against the vast blue, but within minutes their numbers grow, circling slowly and drawing tighter loops above the plains. To a distant observer, it may look like coincidence. For vultures, it is precise information. These birds are specialists at locating death across enormous distances. Some species can detect a carcass from many kilometers away thanks to remarkably sharp eyesight and an ability to read the behavior of other birds already in flight. The descent of a single vulture often triggers a chain reaction, guiding dozens more toward the same place. During the Great Migrations, these gatherings can become extraordinary in scale. Around the body of a single wildebeest or antelope, dozens. Sometimes hundreds of vultures may assemble, forming a restless mass that constantly shifts and reorganizes. What appears chaotic is actually governed by a clear hierarchy. Larger species claim access first, while smaller ones wait at the edges, ready to slip into any opening that appears. The transformation happens with astonishing speed. A carcass that might normally take days to decay can be reduced to clean bones in less than half an hour. Muscles, organs, and soft tissue vanish almost entirely. Nothing is wasted, yet their role extends far beyond feeding. Vultures serve as the sanitation system of the savanna. By rapidly removing large amounts of decaying organic matter, they help prevent the spread of harmful bacteria, reduce potential sources of infection, and limit diseases that could threaten wildlife and even nearby human communities. Research in several regions has shown that when vulture populations decline sharply, diseases linked to unconsumed animal remains increase noticeably. At the same time, opportunistic scavengers far less efficient at nature's cleanup often expand in number. During the migrations, vultures do not follow the herds themselves. Instead, they follow the consequences. Where massive herds move, mistakes happen. Where mistakes occur, death appears. And where death gathers, vultures arrive. Their presence also sends signals across the landscape. Ground predators learn to scan the sky, and human herders do the same. A spiral of circling birds overhead often means that something has ended below. But within the logic of the natural world, it is not truly an ending. It is a transformation. Every consumed body returns nutrients to the soil. Calcium from bones, microscopic remnants, and fluids that seep into the ground all enrich the earth. Within weeks, the place where an animal fell may become a patch of greener, thicker vegetation, a future feeding ground for the next wave of travelers. In this way, vultures complete a cycle that began months earlier, when the first rains awakened the grasslands. They do not chase prey or defend vast territories. Instead, they wait patiently for the inevitable cost of migration and transform that ending into the beginning of new life. In Africa, great migrations unfold under scorching heat, swirling dust, and murky rivers. At the opposite end of the planet, however, movement is governed by a completely different force, cold. Across the vast Arctic and subarctic regions where the landscape appears frozen in time for much of the year, life also travels great distances. But here, the motion is not loud or chaotic. It is quiet, steady, and relentless. Caribou undertake some of the longest land migrations on Earth, with annual routes that can exceed 5,000 kilometers. Their journey crosses open tundra, boreal forests, frozen rivers, and windswept plains. Often there are no clear trails or landmarks to follow. Temperatures can plunge far below -40 degrees, turning the environment itself into a constant challenge. The drive behind this movement is not only the search for food, but the need to align their life cycle with an ecosystem that can change dramatically within a matter of weeks. During the brief Arctic summer, the herds move northward toward areas where vegetation bursts into growth under the nearly endless daylight. Insects may swarm in great numbers, but they pose a lesser threat than the scarcity of food elsewhere. It is here that calves are born, with most arrivals occurring within a remarkably short window of time. This synchronization is no accident. By giving birth almost simultaneously, the herd spreads the risk. Predators are present, but when thousands of calves enter the world at once, it becomes impossible to pursue them all. As winter begins to reclaim the land, the direction of travel reverses. The herds gradually head south in search of places where strong winds sweep the snow aside, revealing the lichens hidden beneath the frozen surface. These modest organisms, which offer little nutrition for most plant-eating animals, form the foundation of the caribou's winter diet and remain one of the few reliable resources during months of near-continuous darkness. Physically, the caribou is remarkably suited to life on the move. Its broad hooves function like natural snowshoes, spreading weight across soft snow in winter. During the warmer months, those same hooves harden, allowing easier travel over rocky ground. A coat made of hollow hairs traps heat efficiently, and the animal's metabolism can slow to conserve energy when food becomes scarce. Even with these advantages, the migration demands a heavy toll. Sudden blizzards early thaws rivers breaking open ahead of schedule or thick ice. Sealing food beneath the ground can transform a familiar route into a harsh test of endurance. In some years, the most serious losses are not caused by hunters but by the climate itself. Predators, when they appear, usually remain along the edges of the herd, watching for the injured, the young, or those that fall behind. Yet unlike many other migrations, the greatest threat here does not come with teeth or claws. It arrives from the sky, carried on the wind and measured in dropping temperature. The migration of the caribou is not defined by dramatic chases or constant attacks. Instead, it is a prolonged trial of resilience. It exists because the Arctic does not allow stillness. To remain in one place is to risk disappearing. Moving forward despite cold storms and uncertainty is the only path that offers a chance to survive. Along the edges of the Arctic, where the ocean presses against shifting sheets of sea ice, migration takes on a very different form. It does not unfold across endless routes or sweep through vast plains. Instead, movement becomes compressed and concentrated. Walruses travel seasonally with the advance and retreat of the sea ice, which serves as a floating platform where they can rest between long feeding sessions on the ocean floor. There they spend hours stirring the sediment with their whiskered snouts, searching for clams and other shellfish hidden in the mud. When the ice retreats too far or disappears entirely, these animals are forced to find alternatives. That is when massive gatherings begin along the coastline. In certain parts of the Arctic, tens of thousands of walruses crowd onto narrow beaches or rocky shores. Space becomes scarce, yet the need for rest is shared by all. Bodies weighing more than a ton press tightly together, forming immense living walls of thick skin-curved tusks and heavy layers of insulating fat. From a distance, such gatherings might appear peaceful, almost like a sanctuary. In reality, they represent a delicate balance. Walruses are highly social animals, and staying close together helps conserve warmth while offering a sense of safety. But that closeness also creates risk. A sudden movement can trigger a chain reaction of shoving bodies, and under such immense weight, the pressure can become overwhelming. Each shift within this crowd leaves visible marks on the shoreline. Sand becomes mixed with traces of dried blood, deep grooves carved by tusks and scars from earlier conflicts. The soundscape never truly fades. Deep grunts, the collision of heavy bodies, slow breathing, and the constant scraping of giants trying to share an area far too small. This migration is not measured by the distance traveled, but by the intensity of the gathering. Here, the challenge is not reaching the next destination, but simply finding a place to stop without being crushed by the mass around them. Where such a concentration of prey exists, watchful eyes are never far away. Polar bears patrol these gatherings with quiet persistence. Unlike their usual hunts for seals on the sea ice, they rely less on stealth here. Instead, they walk, observe, and study the crowd. Among thousands of similar shapes, their focus settles on subtle signs: a calf drifting away from the group, an exhausted individual, or a walrus poorly positioned near the edge. Often, the bear does not need to create chaos. The environment provides it. A sudden noise, an awkward shift in the herd, or a ripple of panic moving through the tightly packed mass can briefly open space. In those fleeting moments, the predator advances, sometimes threading through narrow gaps between enormous bodies that are themselves powerful and potentially dangerous. Even so, most walruses survive these encounters. The strength of the species lies not in speed or individual aggression, but in sheer numbers. Healthy adults form a nearly impenetrable barrier. Their long tusks, tools for hauling themselves onto ice, and also formidable defensive weapons, create a zone of caution that even a predator as powerful as a polar bear must approach carefully. Once again, the migratory phenomenon does not collapse under the pressure of predators. Instead, it adapts. The crowd absorbs its losses and continues demonstrating that in these extreme environments, survival depends not only on individual strength, but on the collective ability to endure and reorganize. At the far reaches of the Southern Ocean, where relentless winds sweep across frozen waters and the cold shows little mercy, migration reveals yet another remarkable form. Here, the movement of life is not defined by long marches across plains or dramatic river crossings. Instead, it gathers in overwhelming numbers. On certain sub-Antarctic islands, entire shorelines cease to look like empty landscapes and begin to resemble living, breathing ecosystems. The bright white of snow disappears beneath vast layers of black, silver, and golden feathers. The ground becomes hidden beneath thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of king penguins packed together in dense colonies. From a distance, the shoreline seems to pulse with life. These gatherings are far more than temporary assemblies. They represent the center of a demanding and carefully timed migratory cycle that unfolds slowly over many months. Unlike most birds, the king penguin does not complete its breeding cycle within a single season. Instead, reproduction may stretch beyond an entire year. This unusual rhythm forces adults to travel repeatedly between the open ocean and the breeding colony. While one parent remains on land, carefully balancing the egg on its feet, beneath a protective fold of skin, the other heads out to sea, sometimes traveling hundreds of kilometers in search of food. These constant journeys create invisible highways through the surrounding ocean. Beneath the surface, king penguins dive to remarkable depths, often reaching more than 300 meters, where sunlight fades into darkness. Their bodies are built for such extreme conditions. Dense bones help reduce buoyancy. Their wings function as powerful flippers and their blood carries oxygen with exceptional efficiency. Even their heart rate can slow during deep dives, allowing them to remain underwater for extended periods. Yet every trip into the ocean carries danger. When an adult returns, it brings enough nourishment to sustain its chick for several days. But before reaching the relative safety of the colony, it must cross the most exposed stretch of the journey, the narrow and uncertain boundary where ocean ice and land meet. In this shifting zone, protection disappears, and a single miscalculation can change the outcome of the entire voyage. Few natural events are as extraordinary as the migratory journey of salmon. Their story does not begin solely in rivers nor end entirely in the ocean. It begins with memory, a chemical imprint formed during the earliest stage of life when a tiny larva drifts through calm, freshwater streams. As the fish matures, this imprint becomes an internal guide, an invisible compass that leads it across vast stretches of open ocean and eventually directs it back with remarkable precision to the very river where it first began life. Some species travel more than 6,000 kilometers through the sea before starting their return. During these years in the ocean, salmon grow larger, stronger, and accumulate the energy reserves they will later depend on. Yet the most demanding challenge still lies ahead. When the instinct to reproduce becomes impossible to ignore, they leave the salt water behind and enter one of the most difficult migrations in the animal kingdom. Even the transition from saltwater to freshwater places enormous strain on the body. Within days, their internal systems must completely readjust. Organs adapt, their skin darkens, jaws reshape, and muscles reorganize, all while they push upstream against currents seemingly designed to block their passage. From that moment onward, they stop feeding. Every kilometer of progress consumes energy stored during years at sea. Each Each leap over waterfalls, each collision with rocks, and every effort to navigate obstacles drains reserves that will never be replenished. In many rivers, more than 70% of the fish never reach the spawning grounds. Yet the collective movement continues without pause. The migration rarely happens in isolation. Thousands, sometimes millions of salmon move upstream together through narrow channels, transforming the river into a restless living current. The water churns with motion, the flow becomes turbulent, and the riverbed vanishes beneath the density of bodies. This sudden concentration of life reshapes the environment itself. Rivers once poor in nutrients become centers of fertility. Nitrogen and phosphorus carried from the ocean nourish algae, insects, birds, and even the forests growing along the banks. The influence can extend far beyond the water's edge. Trees growing at considerable distances from the river may reach greater heights thanks to nutrients released as fish decompose along the ecosystem. Scientists have found chemical traces of this ocean-derived nourishment in soil many years after the migration has passed. Yet wherever life gathers in such abundance, it inevitably draws attention from opportunistic hunters. In certain stretches of the river, the terrain naturally narrows, shallow passages, tight rapids, and unavoidable waterfalls where the effort of the salmon becomes predictable. It is in these places that another strategy appears, that of the brown bear. Unlike predators that rely on long chases or carefully planned ambushes, bears often take advantage of something far simpler: reliable abundance. Over thousands of years, entire bear populations have synchronized their movements with the seasonal arrival of salmon. For them, this event is not occasional. It is a crucial part of their yearly survival. During the peak of the salmon run, a single bear may consume dozens of kilograms of fish in one day. This rich supply of protein and fat fuels daily activity and, more importantly, allows the bear to build the energy reserves needed to endure the long winter when hibernation slows its metabolism dramatically. Their behavior along the rivers is far from random. Bears prefer shallow water, natural waterfalls, and slower stretches where salmon must repeatedly leap upstream. By the time the fish reach these points, many are exhausted. Their reactions slowed after a relentless struggle against the current. With measured movements, the bear takes advantage of this moment, capturing fish that have nearly spent the energy accumulated during their entire life at sea. This relationship goes far beyond a simple interaction between predator and prey. It forms an essential link within the ecosystem. After feeding, bears often carry portions of their catch into nearby forests, leaving scattered remains across the ground. These fragments gradually become natural fertilizer, enriching plants, insects, and microorganisms far from the river itself. Scientific studies have even discovered traces of ocean-derived nutrients within the tissues of centuries-old trees growing deep in the forest. Evidence of generations of bears transporting marine energy onto land. In this way, the bear becomes more than a hunter. It acts as a powerful distributor of life's resources, carrying the richness of the ocean into the heart of the terrestrial world. When the paths of migration fade into the distance and the echoes of pursuit disappear into silence, one truth remains clear: wildlife exists in a balance sustained by struggle. Every movement of the herd and every careful calculation of a predator adds another chapter to an ancient story, one in which survival demands endurance, patience, and at times sacrifice. Seen through the perspective of the hunter, migration becomes more than simple movement across landscapes. It becomes destiny. For some animals, the journey offers hope and renewal. For others, it represents the single opportunity to remain alive. In this way, predator and prey are bound together by the same invisible thread that keeps the natural world in motion. Across the planet's most demanding environments, from scorching plains to rushing rivers and frozen mountains, the same truth persists. No victory lasts forever, and no loss marks the true end as long as life continues to move forward. In the wild, struggle is not a choice. It is simply the way life continues to exist. If this journey into the heart of the wild inspired you, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Join us on Beast Call Nature, where every heartbeat, every watchful gaze, and every encounter reveals another layer of the natural world. Across the vast African savanna, the pursuit of survival never truly pauses. Each sunrise signals the beginning of new struggles in a land where nature offers no mercy. Here, staying alive is not a matter of choice, but a demand imposed by a harsh and unforgiving environment. Survival relies on a balance of strength and intelligence. Predators plan every move with precision, while prey sense danger carried by the wind and rising dust. In this open and uncertain landscape, life hangs by a fragile thread each day, balanced between instinct and miscalculation, between escape and collapse. The savanna is a stage without boundaries or second chances, where every decision can determine whether life continues or fades away. In this wild world, the fight to exist shapes every creature and sets the timeless rhythm of Africa. At first light, dawn spreads across the African plains, washing the landscape in a gentle glow filtered through the morning mist. Across the dry terrain, vast groups of animals move in coordinated waves, creating a living current that never truly stops. Zebras, antelope, and elephants scatter across the savanna, forming a familiar biological pattern unique to this ecosystem. Among them, the African buffalo stand out, moving in a dense, disciplined formation. The herd advances as a single organized force. Adult buffalo can weigh between 600 and 900 kilograms, and their heavy, curved horns serve as powerful defensive tools. This strength places them among the most formidable herbivores in Africa. Their high survival rate is largely due to their habit of traveling in large, tightly knit groups that offer protection through unity. Not far away, a pride of lions remains concealed within the tall grass, carefully avoiding detection. Their eyes track every shift in the herd as they wait for the right moment. These predators rely on stealth and patience, often focusing on younger or weakened individuals to improve their chances of success. In the murky waters of nearby rivers, Nile crocodiles lie motionless, alert to the slightest vibration. They strike only when prey comes close, most often when buffalo enter the water to drink or cross during the dry season. Here, the delicate balance between hunter and hunted reflects the principles of natural selection. Each movement of the herd carries hidden danger, but it also reveals a collective strategy shaped by generations of survival. The compact structure of the herd greatly reduces the risk of individuals becoming isolated. Adult buffalo typically take positions at the front, assessing the terrain and identifying safe routes, while calves remain protected at the center. On average, the group can travel several kilometers a day in search of food and water. During the dry season, access to water becomes the deciding factor for survival, forcing the herd toward marshes and remaining streams, places that also draw a wide range of predators. In a stretch of shallow water, hundreds of African buffalo gather to drink and replenish fluids lost during long hours of movement. Heavy breathing mixes with the sound of splashing hooves, creating the soundscape of this massive assembly. Yet danger still lingers within the vegetation surrounding the wetland. A pride of more than 10 lions moves carefully through the cover, watching for an opening. A calf positioned near the edge of the group quickly becomes the most exposed target. Its movement does not go unnoticed and soon draws the attention of the lions. The herd reacts instantly. The buffalo close ranks forming a defensive circle, pushing the calf toward the center, while the largest adults position themselves as a living shield. This coordinated response sharply reduces the lion's chances of success, forcing them to abandon the attempt. Once the threat subsides, the herd returns to its original formation and resumes drinking, remaining alert in case the predators return. Under the soft light of the afternoon, the group gathered at the water's edge reveals the strong social cohesion of the species. In the distance, a lion injured during the failed attack withdraws to avoid further strain. The space between predator and prey is restored, allowing the ecosystem to regain its natural balance. African buffalo sustain their populations through a reproductive cycle that continues year-round. However, the most favorable period for breeding coincides with the rainy season, when food becomes more abundant. Under these conditions, females have better opportunities to carry pregnancies and nourish their young. Gestation lasts about 11 months, and typically a single calf is born with each cycle. At birth, the calf weighs between 30 and 40 kilograms and is able to stand within minutes, guided by strong, innate reflexes. The mother quickly removes the membrane covering the newborn, reducing unfamiliar scents and reinforcing recognition of its natural smell within the herd. Once the calf is strong enough to remain on its feet, the mother quickly leads it toward the center of the herd, where the risk of predation is much lower during the first months of life. At this early stage, maternal milk is the primary source of nutrition. As time passes, the young gradually begin to graze, slowly adapting to the adult diet while still relying on the protection of the group. Calf mortality is high due to constant pressure from predators such as crocodiles, lions, hyenas, and cheetahs. Even a brief separation from the herd can prove fatal. Between their first and second year, young buffalo learn critical survival behaviors by observing the herd, including how to identify threats and locate reliable water sources. As they mature, young males often leave the group, while females usually remain, helping preserve the herd's social structure. Buffalo herds play a vital role in maintaining the balance of the savanna ecosystem. Their movement compacts and disturbs the soil, promoting seed germination and supporting plant regeneration. They also serve as an important food source for many large predators, making them a key element of the food chain. The continued presence of African buffalo is widely regarded as a clear indicator of a healthy and resilient savanna. If you found this content meaningful and insightful, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel to keep exploring the raw and authentic realities of the wild. The Serengeti Plains stretch across more than 29,000 square kilometers of East Africa, supporting one of the largest concentrations of herbivores on Earth. During the rainy season, lush grasslands flourish, creating ideal conditions for these animals to thrive. As the rains fade, food sources gradually decline and the land becomes increasingly dry, setting the stage for one of nature's greatest movements. Wildebeest populations within the Serengeti Mara ecosystem number between 1.8 and 2 million individuals, making them the most abundant species in the savanna's ecological structure. Their Their massive herds flow across valleys and dried riverbeds, forming a living river that is unmistakable on the landscape. The growing scarcity of water and fresh grazing acts as the primary trigger for their migratory behavior. This journey spans nearly 500 kilometers, carrying the herds from the southern Serengeti in Tanzania to the Masai Mara region of Kenya. It is the largest remaining migration of mammals on the planet. In its early stages, millions of animals move together in groups that can stretch for dozens of kilometers. Alongside them travel more than 100,000 zebras, as well as smaller antelope species such as Thompson's gazelles. Dietary differences allow these species to migrate side by side without directly competing for food. Zebras typically graze on the taller, tougher grasses at the top, while wildebeest focus on shorter, more mature shoots below. In the first days of the journey, the herds must cross vast arid zones facing dehydration, exhaustion, and intense heat. Young animals rely heavily on the experience of older individuals to avoid dangerous terrain and follow safer routes. Along the way, the herds pause briefly to recover energy. When predators like lions or hyenas appear, the pace quickens to reduce the risk of attack. This migration is more than a simple relocation. It is a continuous process that redistributes nutrients across the savanna, shaping the ecosystem through each seasonal cycle. The passage of millions of hooves reshapes the ground year after year, altering soil structure and influencing how vegetation grows and spreads. This constant movement plays a direct role in the ecological rhythm of the savanna, renewing the landscape with each migration. As the herds push farther north, they encounter the most dangerous barrier along their route, the Mara River. With powerful currents and hidden rocks beneath the surface, this river marks the most critical challenge of the entire journey. For thousands of animals, the crossing represents the greatest test of survival they will face. Beneath the surface, Nile crocodiles lie motionless, concealed in the muddy riverbed, and ready to strike with astonishing speed. Over generations, these predators have learned to rely on the predictable timing of the migration, allowing them to anticipate the arrival of the herds with remarkable accuracy. As the animals gather at the river's edge, the collective noise fades, a clear sign of rising tension and caution. The animals at the front hesitate, gauging the depth of the water and the strength of the current before making the first move. Once one steps in, the rest follow almost instantly, maintaining the unity of the group. The thunder of thousands of hooves crashing into the river echoes across the banks as bodies surge into the flow. Those forced into deeper or slower sections of the channel face a higher risk of being swept away, becoming easy targets for waiting crocodiles. A crocodile's bite can exert crushing force, capable of overpowering even large prey. Amid the chaos, many animals continue swimming forward, driven by an instinct that demands they reach the opposite shore. This relentless push ensures the migration endures from one generation to the next. Those that survive the crossing regroup and continue their journey toward the greener grasslands of the north. At the same time, the animals that fail to survive the crossing become a vital source of energy for crocodiles and other scavengers within the ecosystem. In this way, the migration supports the long-term balance of the Serengeti by redistributing nutrients, renewing grazing areas, and sustaining multiple levels of the food chain. Zebras continue to move alongside the wildebeest, and this shared journey improves early detection of predators, as each species relies on different sensory strengths. Together, these animals travel side by side, forming a vast moving current that stretches across the open plains. Young individuals learn how to navigate the landscape and recognize danger by observing the reactions and behavior of the herd. The sight of millions of animals advancing beneath the golden light of the sun reveals an ecosystem built on deep interdependence. This strong collective cohesion reduces the impact of predation and helps stabilize populations through the changing seasons, ensuring that the rhythm of life on the savanna continues uninterrupted. The Masai Mara savanna is an open landscape shaped by low grasses and scattered stands of acacia trees. These conditions are ideal for giraffes whose unique anatomy allows them to feed on vegetation that remains out of reach for most other animals. An adult giraffe can stand between 5.5 and 6 meters tall. This towering frame is the result of long-term adaptation to dry, open environments. Its neck extending over 2 meters is the key feature that enables access to the highest tree canopies. Despite its length and weight, the neck remains remarkably flexible, supported by just 7 vertebrae, the same number found in most mammals. Giraffes feed primarily on young acacia leaves, which are rich in nutrients. To browse without injury, they use an exceptionally long tongue reaching up to 45 or even 50 centimeters, coated with thick protective tissue that shields it from sharp thorns. Their long, powerful legs allow efficient movement across open ground, while their height provides a wide field of view to spot potential threats from afar. However, this impressive stature becomes a challenge when giraffes need to drink. To lower their heads safely, they must spread their front legs and carefully lean forward. Their circulatory system operates under unusually high blood pressure, supported by a heart weighing around 11 to 12 kilograms, strong enough to pump blood all the way to the brain. A sophisticated network of valves within the neck arteries helps regulate blood flow when the head is raised or lowered suddenly. Even their coat plays a protective role. Irregular patterns of light brown and yellow blend with the surrounding light and shadows of the savanna. This natural camouflage reduces visibility to predators, adding another layer of defense in an open and demanding environment. Each day, giraffes travel across wide areas in search of treetops with fresh, nutritious leaves. Their feeding activity peaks during the early morning and late afternoon when temperatures are cooler. By consuming large amounts of vegetation, they help regulate shrub growth and play an important role in maintaining the balance of the savanna ecosystem. Despite their imposing size, giraffes face serious threats from lions. Young individuals are the most vulnerable members of the species. When danger approaches, giraffes rely on powerful kicks from their hind legs as their primary defense. A single well-placed strike can cause severe injuries and is strong enough to break the bones of an adult lion. Water sources represent one of the most dangerous moments in a giraffe's daily routine. Lowering the head to drink greatly reduces their ability to monitor the surroundings. Lion prides often exploit this weakness, moving silently through cover to close the distance before launching an attack. For this reason, giraffes approach rivers and watering holes with extreme caution. Before drinking, they assess wind direction and scan the area for signs of predators. If a potential threat is detected, the group straightens up immediately and retreats without hesitation. Still, not all dangers can be anticipated. When a calf becomes separated from the group, the risk of predation increases dramatically. Lion prides coordinate their movements to cut off escape routes and gain a tactical advantage. In a typical attack, lions aim to bite or strike the hind legs, attempting to destabilize the giraffe and bring it to the ground. Once the prey collapses, its chances of survival drop rapidly. The lions then target the neck, delivering the final blows that end the struggle. After the giraffe dies, its massive body becomes a vital source of energy for many other species. Scavengers such as hyenas and vultures soon arrive, feeding on the remains and carrying the process of consumption forward. This natural sequence ensures the redistribution of nutrients across the landscape and helps preserve ecological balance within the Mara ecosystem. Through death and renewal, the savanna sustains its complex web of life, where every loss supports the survival of countless others. The calm waters of the Londolozi River shimmer beneath Africa's golden sun, hiding untold stories below the surface. A group of massive hippos rests close together, their gray bodies mostly submerged with only eyes and ears, breaking the mirror of the water. At first glance, the scene feels peaceful, but within the group, an unseen tension begins to rise. Two fully grown males, enormous and scarred from past confrontations, start circling each other with measured caution. Their jaws slowly open, revealing long, formidable tusks that catch the sunlight like polished ivory. The herd senses the danger. Younger hippos grow restless while mothers nudge their calves towards safer, quieter sections of the river. Deep rumbling calls roll from their throats, vibrating through the air. Both males lower their heads, every muscle tightening in anticipation. Then, without warning, the stillness shatters. The giants surge forward, colliding with tremendous force and sending sheets of water crashing outward. The impact echoes along the riverbank, a raw display of power dominance and ancient instinct. Powerful jaws clamp shut with bone-crushing strength. Thick hides absorb the blows as water churns violently around them, briefly darkened by the intensity of the struggle. The rest of the group watches in tense silence, ears twitching, bodies frozen. Waves explode outward as the rivals shove, twist, and bite, neither willing to retreat. Even the river itself seems to recoil. Its once smooth surface is torn apart by the clash of the giants. Roars blend with the sound of rushing water rolling across the reserve like distant thunder. After repeated charges and relentless pressure, exhaustion begins to claim the weaker contender. Movements slow, strength fades, and the balance of power quietly shifts beneath the African sun. At last, his resistance breaks. The defeated male withdraws slowly, slipping into the shadows of the reeds until he vanishes from sight. Beaten and displaced, he leaves the river to the victor. The dominant hippo rises higher in the water chest, heaving, head lifted, jaws wide, in a booming display of triumph that echoes across the channel. Dawn drifts over Londolozi. A pale light dusts the crowns of the acacia trees as a pride of lions moves toward the river. A long night patrol has left their throats dry and thirst draws them forward. Their paws barely disturb the sand and reeds as they approach the bank. The river murmurs softly, stitching together ripples and quiet breaths. Cubs snort gently, lionesses exhale in slow rhythm. For a fleeting moment, the tension loosens. Golden eyes soften, whiskers catch tiny beads of moisture, and shoulders relax beneath the warming light. Nearby kingfishers slice into the water. A turtle surfaces briefly. Reeds trace lazy patterns across the current. The calm feels secure until the heart of the river suddenly stirs. Two bloodshot eyes break the surface like warning beacons. A massive hippo rises, water streaming from its powerful frame. Its jaws open impossibly wide, ivory tusks flashing in the sun. On the shore, the lions lower their heads, pink tongues touching the cool, slow-moving water. Then comes the first bellow, born from deep within the riverbed. It sounds like stone cracking beneath the surface, rolling outward, tearing through the fragile quiet of morning. Silence follows, brief and absolute. Then the river erupts in silver chaos. The hippo asserts its claim with an ancient roar, a declaration older than any throne. The lions freeze mid-drink, ears snap upright, muscles tighten as instinct redraws the battlefield around the water's edge. The dominant male lifts his mane into the passing breeze and answers with a deep, controlled growl, carefully judging the space between them. The pride understands at once. This time the water will not be shared. Territories are declared through sound and presence alone. Confronted by the river's warning, the Londolozi lions turn away, following the flow of water with wounded pride but clear intent. They do not retreat in failure. They move forward in silence, studying tracks as if they were ancient symbols written into the pale sand. Ahead, a lone hippo leaves the river, searching for shade and rest beneath the wide canopy of a fig tree. The moment tightens like a drawn bow. Golden bodies sink low, spreading outward through grass and thorn. The air grows heavy with caution. Flies circle lazily. Dust carries a sharp metallic scent. Whiskers tremble with anticipation. The hippo senses the threat, nostrils flare, breath bursts outward, feet strike the ground with confidence. A deep rumble answers the lion's low snarls. Amber eyes glow, massive shoulders shift. Strategy forms without a single sound. The leader calculates distance, wind direction, and escape routes. Bravery without precision brings injury, an old truth learned under unforgiving suns. In a single suspended instant, both sides surge forward. Force meets force. Authority clashes with hunger. Roars merge with heat as the giant's jaws flash ivory and the savannah trembles beneath the impact. The lions strike low, aiming for the flanks. Jaws snap higher, colliding like iron against living stone. Claws rake across thick hide, searching for weakness beneath natural armor. The hippo answers with a terrifying charge, sheer mass and fury hurling two lionesses into the thorns. The ground shudders, dust erupts, bodies skid and stumble. A cub cries out and darts behind a protective leg as the struggle reshapes the land in seconds. A final coordinated push unfolds. Three lines close in as dust rises in tall bursts from the ground. The massive animal hesitates, bellowing defiance, but withdrawal becomes unavoidable. The river seems to call him back. Shallow water offers both shelter and an end to the confrontation. As dusk settles over Londolozi, the pride turns homeward, their steps barely whispering across the brittle grass. The lionesses gather tightly, touching wounds with gentle nudges, their whiskers trembling. The cubs watch in silence, unsettled by a weight they do not yet understand. One sibling presses softly against the injured lion, urging him to hold on a little longer. He answers faintly, his tail flicking once before falling still like grass after the wind has passed. Warm breath fades into the cooling air. The world narrows to heartbeats, familiar footsteps, and the faces of those he once hunted beside. His eyes lose their fire, shifting from gold to dull amber, then to gray. Each breath grows shorter than the last, until it stops. A female lifts her head and releases a low, enduring call, a sound that carries sorrow across the thorned earth. Others join in their voices, weaving together grief reshaped into memory. The leader raises his head. His golden eyes burn with a quiet intensity, refusing to dim beneath the night breeze. He steps from the shadows, restraint wrapped tightly around resolve. The pride follows, paws brushing the dry grass. Wind moves across the savannah, urging instinct forward. Determination sharpens hard and unyielding like stone against steel. Above, the stars turn slowly while the land records every step. This night, balances will be settled where moonlight touches the water. Near the bank, a lone hippo leaves the current, seeking firm ground, confident in his size and unaware of what draws near. He does not sense the closing circle. Reeds quiver. Owls blink awake. The grass holds its breath. From several directions, the lions emerge, flowing silently out of the dark. Shoulders drop, low tails. Held steady, anger coiled tight like loaded springs. Deep growls simmer beneath the grass. Muscles lock into place. Eyes narrow, catching the moonlight like hammered silver. At an unseen signal, the circle tightens. Shadows overlap. Dust rises softly like the breath of sleeping stone. The hippo startles. A burst of panic bellows tears through the night. He charges forward in fury, but darkness has become a net. Every exit watched, every path cut off. One lioness faints from the right, another strikes from the left. The leader drives from the center, redirecting the force of the group. Water splashes beneath frantic hooves. Reeds whip and snap. The massive body surges, trying to shatter the disciplined storm around him. Claws find purchase in thick hide. Jaws clamp onto belly and flanks. Strength meets patience, and patience begins to prevail. The hippo lunges again, dragging a young male backward. Dust erupts in violent plumes. Silence fractures into harsh noise. Still, the pressure never eases, the rotation never stops. Each charge steals breath, carving exhaustion deep into the giant's body. A sharp command cuts the air. Three forms cross at once. Balance collapses. The river titan stumbles hard. Moonlight reveals open wounds. Foam hangs from the jaws, breathing shortens. Fear floods instinct only to crash against relentless coordination. One final synchronized strike. Left, right, center, everything collides, roars stack upon one another. The hippo folds. Knees tear through the soil, the body crashes down with a dull final thud. Claws anchor in place, bites drive deeper, water and dust merge, burying fear beneath the earth. The struggle fades, then stops. The circle loosens. Night exhales. Above the stars bear witness to a debt paid in blood. Red spreads across the cracked ground. A brutal signature is left behind, etched where raw dominance met unyielding order. As the sun sinks beyond the African savanna, the clashes seem to fade, but the struggle for life never truly ends. In the wild, there are no permanent victories, only brief moments earned to keep breathing one more day. Survival is shaped by strength, intelligence, and the ability to adapt. A single mistake can mean everything is lost. In this unpredictable land, life hangs by a thread, each day fragile, exposed, and unforgiving. These are not merely moments of natural conflict. They are stories of endurance, instinct, and determination in a world that shows no mercy. The African savanna closes another chapter, reminding us that here, staying alive is already a triumph. In the wild, the greatest confrontations rarely begin with a sudden strike. They emerge from stillness. Across the planet's harshest landscapes, every heartbeat carries a warning, and every glance reflects careful calculation, weighing strength, distance, and the fragile chances of survival. Nothing unfolds by accident here. Each movement is shaped by countless generations of evolution. Within these unforgiving environments, predators and prey study one another with intense focus. A single misstep can determine fate. The air grows heavy with tension as bodies ready themselves to flee, to hunt, or to endure. Life and death are often separated by mere seconds, and only those that interpret their surroundings with precision can continue their journey. These encounters are not random acts of aggression. They are powerful displays of instinct, strategy, and adaptation. Every chase, every ambush, and every act of resistance plays a role in sustaining the balance of entire ecosystems, reminding us that struggle is an essential thread in the fabric of the natural world. As the sun slips behind the rim of the crater, deep roars echo across the steep cliffs. These calls are more than territorial warnings. They are declarations of dominance. The lion, the apex predator of the Ngorongoro crater, proclaims its authority. Research suggests that this region is home to roughly 65 to 75 lions organized into about 8 prides with a density of nearly 20 to 25 individuals across 63 square kilometers. The males of Ngorongoro are especially striking, known for their impressive dark manes. The color and size of a mane are influenced by genetics, hormones, and climate. Males with darker, almost black manes often have higher testosterone levels, greater reproductive success, and longer lifespans. In this crater, more than 60% of adult males display these darker manes. During contests for dominance, such a mane serves not only as an intimidating signal, but also as an attractive trait to females. Yet this strength has deep origins. The dark-maned lions of Ngorongoro descend from a population shaped by extreme survival. In the past, disease dramatically reduced their numbers, leaving only a small group behind. From those few survivors, the entire population was rebuilt. It is a story of resilience. Though not without consequences. This close lineage means many individuals share remarkably similar genetic traits, forming a dynasty forged in isolation. Within the crater, limited space and abundant prey force. Prides to live in close proximity, increasing the likelihood of territorial conflict. From opposite sides, two adult males approach. There is no retreat. Their roars shake the landscape, signaling an unavoidable clash. They collide with immense Akut bodies weighing close to 180 kilograms. Claws tear into the earth and sharp teeth flash as each aims for the other's neck. This confrontation determines far more than control of land. At stake is the right to pass on their lineage and assert lasting dominance. In the ecosystem of Ngorongoro, the victor claims the territory and access to females while the defeated is driven away, losing his place within the social order. In Ngorongoro, the rhythm of the hunt reflects constant flexibility and adaptation, while males devote much of their time to patrolling and defending territory. It is the lionesses who lead the hunt with precision and coordination. Across most of Africa, lions succeed in only 18 to 30% of their attempts. Here, however, success rates can rise to 35 or even 40%, driven by the abundance of herbivores and cooperative techniques refined over generations. As the last light of evening fades and heat lingers in the tall grass, tension builds. A pride has just taken down a zebra. For a moment, the victory seems secure, but at the edges of the scene, shadowy figures begin to emerge, spotted hyenas. Not one, but many. Then suddenly a sharp, eerie laugh cuts through the silence, a direct and unmistakable challenge. Encounters between these two dominant predators of the Ngorongoro crater are far from rare. Their rivalry stretches back through generations. The crater itself acts like a natural enclosure, an ecological pressure chamber. With limited space and no easy escape routes, confrontations between lions and hyenas occur more frequently and with greater intensity than in most other ecosystems. The hyenas here are anything but mere scavengers. They are highly effective hunters, often bold enough to confront lions and steal their kills. In this enclosed world, the traditional rules of the savanna seem to shift constantly. With an estimated population ranging from 380 to over 470 individuals, the spotted hyena stands as the most numerous large carnivore in the crater. Recent observations reveal at least 8 distinct clans, some numbering up to 80 members, all thriving within territories of no more than 40 square kilometers. Their competition with lions extends far beyond a single carcass. At such high densities, conflict can erupt almost daily. While a lion may hold the advantage in sheer strength, hyenas rely on numbers and coordinated tactics to level the balance. This ongoing cycle of confrontation has shaped a unique ecological dynamic, one where nothing is certain and strength alone does not always decide the outcome. Hyenas do not exist as isolated individuals. Each clan functions as a highly structured matriarchal society, where a dominant female leads and rank is passed from mother to daughter. When males reach maturity, they cannot remain within their birth clan. Instead, they must leave and seek acceptance in another group to reproduce. This system helps prevent inbreeding within the crater's confined environment. In this closed world, a young male's departure is not an act of desperation, but a calculated step towards survival. An unseen network seems to guide him, familiar scents carried on the wind, subtle echoes of kinship among distant clans. It is an ancient form of social awareness that ensures opportunity even far from where he was born. Often males move toward clans where a sibling or a member of their generation has already settled, increasing their chances of acceptance and reproductive success. Their survival also depends on an extraordinary communication system. Laughter like calls, low growls, sharp yelps, and powerful vocal signals can travel across great distances. Within the enclosed world of Ngorongoro, these sounds are more than noise. They are the voice of a resilient, ever-changing ecosystem deeply woven together by connection and competition. One of Africa's most formidable forces moves across the savanna, the African buffalo. Unlike its domesticated relatives, this species possesses a massive muscular body that can exceed 900 kilograms. Its wide, curved horns merge at the base into a solid structure known as a boss, forming a natural shield that provides remarkable protection against predators. This feature gives the buffalo a defensive advantage few large mammals can match. They live in large herds that can number in the hundreds. Within the group, cohesion and discipline are essential for survival. Whether crossing dry plains or moving through rivers, they maintain tight formations. Calves and weaker individuals stay protected in the center, while the strongest males position themselves along the perimeter, ready to confront any threat. This living fortress proves highly effective, allowing the herd to withstand attacks from even the most powerful predators of the savanna. Their senses of smell and hearing are highly developed, compensating for relatively poor eyesight. At the slightest unfamiliar sound carried by the wind, the herd halts and raises its heads in unison, alert and watchful. When lions or hyenas are detected, the buffalo quickly group together, forming a defensive line. Dominant males move forward, charging with force and swinging their horns to push predators back. In many cases, the entire herd counterattacks, turning what began as a hunt into a dangerous situation for the hunters themselves. There are numerous accounts of lions being seriously injured or even killed after being struck by a buffalo's horns. Yet despite their strength, river crossings remain one of the most dangerous moments for the species. In deeper waters, Nile crocodiles lie in wait, ready to strike when an individual becomes separated. Calves and weakened adults are especially vulnerable. When a buffalo is dragged beneath the water, the herd often pauses and several males may rush in to attempt a rescue. This bold response can sometimes force the predator to release its grip. During the dry season, buffalo must travel long distances in search of water. Fatigue weakens the herd, creating more opportunities for lions to attack. In these critical moments, cooperation becomes vital. If the herd fragments, isolated individuals rarely survive. But when they remain united, they become a powerful force capable of driving off even large groups of lions. The African buffalo is also known for its unpredictable temperament. It may appear calm while grazing, yet even a small disturbance can trigger a sudden and forceful charge. This behavior has made the buffalo one of the animals responsible for the highest number of human fatalities in Africa, surpassing even some major predators. With its immense strength, speed, and deadly horns, it commands deep respect. Its ecological role is equally significant. As herds move across the land, their hooves break up old vegetation, encouraging new growth. They also disperse seeds through their dung, contributing to the regeneration of plant life across the savanna. At the same time, they serve as a vital food source for large predators, holding a key position within the food chain. On the plains of Botswana, a herd forming a defensive circle stands as a powerful example of collective strength. In an environment where every species struggles to endure, unity becomes the foundation of survival. For lions or crocodiles, bringing down even a single buffalo is never easy. For the herd, staying together is the strongest shield against any threat. Just to the north, the plains of the Serengeti stretch out like an endless ocean of grass. This is far more than a simple natural setting. It is one of the most extraordinary wildlife spectacles still found on Earth. Each year, between 1.5 and 2 million wildebeest, joined by over 200,000 zebras, around 500,000 gazelles, and tens of thousands of elands set out on a journey exceeding 800 kilometers across the Serengeti Mara ecosystem. If the Great Migration is nature's grand symphony, then the Serengeti is its orchestra, the stage where life's rhythms are born, repeated, and transformed in an endless cycle spanning more than 14,700 square kilometers in northern Tanzania. Here, life does more than survive. It flourishes with an intensity rarely matched anywhere else. The name Serengeti, derived from the Maasai language meaning endless plains, reflects not only the vastness of the land, but also the constant motion and renewal of life. As the rains fade and clouds lift from the southern highlands, the Ndutu region near the Ngorongoro Conservation Area becomes the starting point of this immense journey. The soil in this area is rich with layers of ancient volcanic ash built up over thousands of years. This creates grasslands packed with minerals such as potassium, calcium, and silica. Allowing vegetation to grow rapidly and reach nutritional levels up to 25% higher than those found in the more neutral soils of the north. For this reason, between January and March, vast herds of wildebeest, zebras, and gazelles gather in this region. Grant's zebras lead the migration, guided as if by an inherited memory etched deep within their instincts. Their path is not random. It follows a biological map passed down through generations. Within the Serengeti Mara system, nearly 200,000 Grant's zebras take part in this annual movement. Compared to the more slender build of the wildebeest, these zebras have a sturdy frame weighing between 220 and 300 kilograms. Though they are the smallest zebra subspecies, they are remarkably resilient, capable of sustaining the long and demanding pace of migration. Their black and white stripes serve more than a visual purpose. They help regulate body temperature, enabling them to endure the dry heat of the tropical plains. Acting as the pioneers of the journey, they feed first on the taller, tougher grasses that many other herbivores avoid. By clearing this rough upper layer, they reveal fresh, nutrient-rich shoots beneath exactly the type of vegetation preferred by wildebeest. This creates one of the most remarkable symbiotic relationships of the migration, a silent partnership that keeps one of Earth's greatest natural cycles in motion. While the zebras guide the route, the blue wildebeest takes center stage in one of the planet's most impressive birth events. Each year, within just a few weeks between February and March, around 500,000 calves are born. Nearly 8,000 new lives every single day. This synchronized birthing is no coincidence, but a highly effective survival strategy, overwhelming predators such as lions, hyenas, and cheetahs, which can only capture a small fraction of this surge of life. Once the calving season ends and the tender grasses are depleted, the land begins to dry and crack under the first intense sun of the dry season. This marks the beginning of the true migration. No other mammal dominates this movement in sheer numbers. Each year, between 1.5 and 1.7 million wildebeest move as one. An adult typically weighs between 180 and 250 kilograms, built for endurance rather than speed. By mid-year, the journey grows more perilous. Rivers become the greatest obstacles along the route. At the Grumeti River, calves born just months earlier begin to feel the strain of the long trek, and the water's edge becomes both a necessity and a danger. Beneath the surface, hundreds of Nile crocodiles remain motionless, waiting. Some wildebeest are seized and dragged under by these hidden predators. Others freeze, watching as unseen giants rise from the water to claim members of their herd. It is a stark reminder that within the Great Migration, every step carries the weight of survival or sacrifice. By July, the herds push northward. The land rises, the air grows drier, and the sky seems to open endlessly above them. The northern Serengeti reveals a different kind of beauty, marked by scattered kopias, granite outcrops rising like islands from a sea of golden grass. These natural formations serve as perfect vantage points for lion prides watching the vast herds from a distance. But in August, everything changes. The Mara River stands in their path, redefining the course of the migration. It divides the landscape and creates one of the most dramatic crossings in the natural world. Unlike the Grumeti, the Mara is deeper, its currents faster, and its waters filled with an even greater concentration of crocodiles. Here, one of the most raw and awe-inspiring spectacles in nature unfolds. Thousands of wildebeest gather at the river's edge, calling out and pressing forward, driven by instinct before plunging into the churning water. What awaits them is a deadly corridor filled with hidden predators. Yet within this chaos, a striking paradox emerges. The mass loss of wildebeest during these crossings is not simply an end. It becomes the beginning of another cycle. Vast amounts of organic matter settle along the riverbed, creating a powerful surge of nutrients that can last for months. Released elements like nitrogen and phosphorus nourish entire communities of fish, insects, and algae, transforming loss into a vital force that sustains the ecosystem. The Nile crocodiles inhabiting these waters are among the most formidable predators in the region. Adult individuals typically measure between 3.5 and 5 meters, while dominant specimens can reach up to 6 meters and weigh more than 680 kilograms. Beneath their thick skin lies a layer of bony plates known as osteoderms, natural armor that turns them into living tanks beneath the surface. Their eyes, nostrils, and ears are positioned on top of the head, allowing them to remain almost entirely submerged while observing everything above the waterline. Their bite is one of the most powerful in the animal kingdom, capable of crushing the bones of large herbivores such as wildebeest and zebra. Rather than chewing, they seize their prey with immense force, drag it into the water, and perform a violent rotational movement to break it apart. At key crossing points like the Mara River, the arrival of migrating herds signals a season of abundance for these predators. When tens of thousands of animals enter the river in a single day, crocodiles no longer need to hunt actively. The current delivers prey directly to them. And paradoxically, the greater the number of animals crossing at once, the higher the chances of survival for each individual. The wildebeest seem to sense this instinctively. If they succeed in crossing the Mara River, they will reach the Masai Mara National Reserve, a vast expanse of green pastures often seen as the destination that sustains the continuation of their journey. Across Africa's vast open plains, small groups of antelope move carefully through the tall grass. They are among the most abundant herbivores of the savanna and serve as a vital food source for many predators. With slender bodies weighing between 40 and 80 kilograms, antelope are built for speed and agility. They can reach speeds close to 80 kilometers per hour and, more importantly, shift direction in an instant to evade danger. In this environment, their most formidable opponent is the cheetah. Unlike lions that rely on teamwork or crocodiles that depend on ambush, the cheetah relies almost entirely on raw speed. Once it identifies a target, often a young or isolated individual, it begins a low, silent approach, closing the distance with careful precision. Its lightweight frame, highly flexible spine, and powerful hind legs allow it to accelerate to over 95 kilometers per hour in just seconds. The long tail acts like a rudder, stabilizing the body during sharp, high-speed turns. When the gap narrows to less than 45 meters, the cheetah unleashes a sudden burst of speed, launching into a full sprint. The chase rarely lasts more than 30 seconds, but within that brief window, everything is decided. The antelope reacts instantly, darting in zigzags and changing direction repeatedly to disrupt the attack. Often this strategy works. A sudden turn can throw the cheetah off balance, making it impossible to recover in time. But when the strike is precise, the predator's claws grip tightly and its jaws close around the prey's throat. Death comes quickly and without sound. The cheetah must conserve energy and avoid drawing attention. Unlike lions, it does not share its meal. It must eat alone and fast, as hyenas, vultures, or even larger predators may attempt to steal the kill at any moment. To reduce this risk, it drags the carcass into cover and feeds as rapidly as possible, gaining the energy needed to survive, and in the case of females, to nourish their cubs. For the herd, the loss of one individual is part of the natural balance. For the cheetah, that single moment means survival. The encounter between antelope and cheetah is a precise expression of evolution itself. Speed against speed, reflex against reflex. Each pursuit is a test of extreme adaptation where only the fastest and most resilient endure, passing their traits on to the next generation. As the midday sun beats down on the Mara River, the surface begins to stir. From the murky water, massive gray shapes emerge, bulging eyes, small ears, and enormous heads breaking through the reflective surface. They are hippopotamuses, the largest semi-aquatic mammals in Africa, and among the most aggressive animals on the continent. An adult can exceed 4 tons in weight and stretch beyond 4 meters in length. Their skin, nearly 5 centimeters thick, acts as natural armor. Combined with curved tusks that can reach half a meter, these features make the hippo a force capable of overpowering almost any rival. For most of the day, they remain submerged to avoid overheating, exposing only their eyes, ears, and nostrils just enough to observe their surroundings while staying protected. At night, they leave the water in small groups and move on to the open plains to feed. A single individual can consume more than 70 kilograms of grass in one night. Despite their strictly herbivorous diet, their territorial behavior is intensely aggressive. Any creature that enters their aquatic domain is treated as a threat, whether it is a crocodile, a lion, or even a human. This aggression becomes immediate during confrontations. If a Nile crocodile approaches an area where calves are present, an adult female will attack without hesitation. She opens her jaws to an almost full angle, revealing massive tusks while releasing a deep, resonant roar that echoes across the river. A single bite can crush a crocodile's skull. In many cases, the reptile retreats, surrendering control of the shoreline to the true dominant force. Males are equally intolerant of intrusion. They mark territory by spinning their tails as they defecate, spreading scent as a warning. another male ignores this signal, conflict becomes inevitable. Two enormous bodies collide violently, striking with heads and tusks. Deep wounds can stain the water red. These battles are not random, they determine hierarchy and control over the most valuable sections of the river. Within the Mara ecosystem, the hippo plays a crucial ecological role. Their constant movement between water and land creates natural channels, while their waste enriches the river with nutrients that sustain fish and microorganisms, supporting the entire aquatic food chain. Their presence is both a danger to intruders and a stabilizing force within the river system. Hippos also maintain a structured social system. They live in large groups, sometimes numbering in the dozens, led by a dominant male. He defends the territory while females and calves form the core of the group. When danger appears, they cluster together, turning the river into a domain few predators dare to challenge. Even so, calves remain the most vulnerable. Many fall prey to crocodiles when they stray too far from their mothers, while others may die during clashes between adult males. Those that survive grow rapidly, reaching over a ton in just a few years. Once fully mature, very few animals in the ecosystem can challenge a healthy hippo. For other species, their presence is a clear warning. Buffalo herds often choose to drink in areas where hippos are absent, while zebras and migrating wildebeest tend to cross the river at points where they are less concentrated. For human communities living near rivers like the Nile and the Mara, the danger is real. A single charge can be fatal. For these reasons, the hippopotamus has long been considered more deadly than many land predators. All these traits establish it as the true ruler of the river. Even the formidable Nile crocodile often yields to its dominance. In the waters of the Mara, if the crocodile is the silent executioner, the hippo stands as the visible warrior asserting absolute authority over its domain. And so these stories of the animal kingdom's most intense encounters come to an end. They are not tales of glory or absolute victory, but real moments where every heartbeat carries a warning in a world that offers no pause. In the wild, every glance is a decision, a silent calculation between pressing forward or giving in, between attack and escape. Here, conflict does not arise from cruelty but from necessity. Each encounter reflects a delicate balance that has allowed life to endure for millions of years. Some survive, others fall, yet both are part of the same cycle that keeps ecosystems alive and in motion. These moments remind us that nature does not exist for spectacle but for continuity. To understand it is the first step toward respecting and protecting it. Because when an ecosystem breaks, it is not only species that disappear, entire stories are lost, never to be told again. If this journey through the wild has made you feel, reflect, or see nature from a new perspective, consider liking the video and subscribing to Beast Call Nature. Your support helps us continue sharing real stories from the natural world, told with honesty, respect, and a deep sense of wonder.